that part of the body, that system, the nervous system, is necessary condition for mental life, at least necessary condition. And our mental life depends in many ways that we can see in disturbances, in alterations of many mental functions when the brain is injured. Memory, perception, love, passions, feelings, emotions, thinking and speaking, of course. So it's not, even the popular culture has still think that the heart is so central and so important, at least symbolically and as a way of speaking, related to our hot part, our interesting part of emotions and feelings. And the brain is the cool part of the rational behavior, etc. But everything depends on the brain. That consideration is what I consider the big discovery of the science of neuroscience and of psychology. But that we can use as a starting point, leave two main open questions, and I put into the brackets difficult questions. First of all, how the brain works. And that has been the goal, the target of the development of neurology traditionally. And it has not been easy. Nervous system, and especially the brain and the central nervous system, has been the hidden organ for our observation during many centuries. Even to the modern, I mean, in the 2 last centuries, until half a century ago, exploration techniques of the body, the nervous system, and especially the brain and the central nervous system, has been very reluctant to be inspected, directly inspected. Also for example, paleontological record. We had to access the nervous central system, at least the human central system, very indirectly, through the skull, through bones record, through different techniques, or very invasive techniques, trepanation. I don't know if in English say trepanation. We made it now. Or sometimes, in the modern times, surgery, or waiting until the death of the patient or for necropsia. So it has been difficult to advance in the study of the brain. 19th century was especially productive. And until the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th century, nobody have a clear idea of what that system is made of, until our Santiago Ramón y Cajal developed and presented the theory of the neuron. That is one of the most updated theories on neurology and changes the paradigm of neurology. But it's curious, no? That even if Ramón y Cajal won the Nobel Prize of Medicine at the same time as Camillo Golgi, that invented the tinction techniques that Cajal used to discover the neuron, Camillo Golgi at the same time, and in the same moment that they both were receiving the Nobel Prize, didn't believe it. So it's very new, it's very recent. It has been not easy to advance in this study of how the brain works until now. And the development of these new techniques of exploring the nervous system and the brain, especially the new technologies supported by the computational technology, are very recent, and they have, suppose, a big advance in the exploration of the brain. The other question that is also open to research, but is also very difficult, at least as difficult as the first one, if no more, is how the mind works. And this is the question that we psychologists are supposed to answer someday. This is the big question of psychology. The mind and the brain have to be together, but even if we know, as that big discovery shows, that the brain can be taken as the organ of the mind, we still don't have an answer to that question that represents the matching issue that I wanted to communicate with you. How does the brain make the mind and control the behavior, for example, and is responsible of all the, in certain way, of all the phenomena and the realities that we as psychologists are studying? This is a very open and difficult question. And I don't know if we will answer it someday. But that is what poses the question of the too much or not too much. How these relations between mind and brain have been configured, have been treated, have been dealt. And here there are several alternatives that through the history of not only psychology but also philosophy have been offered. The first and the last one are the extremes in a kind of continuum in which we can start by dualism as two substances, the very well-known radical version of Descartes, ontological dualism. There are lighter or softer versions of that dualism, more in a epistemological sense or in a more methodological sense. But I'm referring here to the ontological version of dualism. And the problem with that, the first alternative, is that it's not very compatible with the science, at least with the modern science as it's understood since the big turn of the Nova Scienza in the Renaissance in Italy. Is not Descartes was forced to assume that dualism of substances, even if he was an important scientist besides a philosopher, and had a very clear idea of how our body works and what was the role of the nervous system. I think that one of the first that spoke about the reflex arc was Descartes in his theory. So he had a clear idea about that central role of the nervous system in the life of the organism. But he didn't get the point to connect the brain or the nervous system with the mind. And he had to appeal to the intervention of God, finally he was forced to find where was the interaction. And in a very, not very elegant manner, contrary to what Descartes used to do and to think, he appealed to that pineal gland to explain the interaction, that finally the pineal gland was a part of the body, was a part of the, we know now, endocrine system, even if it's located in as a very small gland inside the brain. And from there to the other end of this scale, that is reductionism, in the strongest version, eliminativism. So one way of getting rid of the problem of dualism was just to say, well, mental life either is inaccessible, so it's better not to mix with scientific business, or it's just an illusion. So let's deal with a physical system and forget about the mind. But, or at least transitorily, if you speak about the mind, is waiting until the development of the basic sciences, biology, neurology, or neurobiology, would shed light on the issues that psychology is supposed to deal. So both ends are very undesirable, at least even for survivor's reasons. The last one is very pessimistic for the destiny of most of the people that have gathered in this room. But anyway, if there is what it has to be, in these times we are getting used to many things that we didn't think that are going to happen. Be that the economical situation and the social situation. But so in science, we have not to afraid of that. If we had to renounce to say scientifically something about the mind, let's do it. In the middle, in between, we can, well, find different degrees in this continuum from dualism to eliminativism, like emergentism. It's a kind of dualism, but in which, well, more or less mysteriously, we think that, well, mind and mental life has properties and different that emerge from the brain, from the nervous system. We don't know very well how. So it's better, well, not to face directly that question, at least transitorily. Psychophysical parallelism also maintains certain dualism, but looks, I think I forget to some interaction. They look for interaction, but psychophysical parallelism was more or less the attitude, the motive that was present in the beginning of the scientific psychology, in which it was also certain that psychology had to find his object of study, a specific object of study, to distinguish itself from other sciences. But at the same time, they recognize the dependence on the many neuro processes. And maybe another version of this transition from dualism to reductionism, more closer to reductionism, is something that psychologists and psychological theories have been very much tempted. That is this isomorphism or isomorphism that has been present in many approaches and many orientations in psychology. Try to see, well, if we know more directly and is more accessible, relatively more accessible, the brain than the mind, so if we can have a model of the workings of the nervous system, let's suppose that the mind could be modeled according to the models of the nervous system. And that correspondence between the neural models and psychological models is what I refer to by isomorphism. After these introductory considerations, this kind of walking through the history of psychology as a science offers us the possibility for considering the efforts